Welcome to Spark TV.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Thanks for having me here.
I'm so excited to have you here because I love your brand. I have been doing much stalking since I found you, and it's just such a vibrant, amazing brand. So I'm so excited to dive into it. But why don't we start with who you are and what you do to give some context?
Yeah, sure. First of all, thank you for the kind words. That every time someone says, I love the vibe of your brand, it just kind of makes me smile because that's the point. We wanted it to be fun and sassy and kind of humorous and, all of those things, kind of what brings joy, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, so my name is Sumana, and I am the founder and CEO of Gina. Gina is a super young and sassy silk hair accessories brand, and we predominantly cater to women with textured hair, curly hair, all and kind of help them maintain their natural hair and try to encourage not to use chemicals and heating as often as they usually do. So that's where we come in, and it's kind of like a very boring category, honestly speaking, about when we're talking about something to put on your head and going to sleep, and it's not as sexy as skincare or makeup or any of the other beauty products or even sexual wellness. But that's why it's colorful and funny. If you can't be sexy, be funny. That's the whole motto here.
I love that.
So yeah. So yeah, so that's what we do in in a couple of sentences, I would say.
I love it. No, it's so cool. And, you may not think it's sexy, but I think it's sexy. I think it's a really cool, vibrant, sexy brand. So, how did you get into it? What was the idea that sparked launching a business?
Yeah, that's again a good question because I usually tell everyone I'm a really bad employee. That's why I started a business. But also I have curly hair, and
Mhm.
I straightened my hair pretty much every day with a hair iron straightener for like 2 decades. And I had really beautiful thick hair, which I kind of lost because I hardly used any heat, those things where you kind of protect your hair, the heat
Mhm.
protection and things like that. But so the idea was when I wanted to embrace my own natural hair, and especially here in Australia, I didn't really find anything that would help me kind of preserve it for longer because no one really has the time to actually style your hair and your curls every single morning. If you're a curly girl, you know that it takes a long time.
Mhm.
So you wanted something which would preserve your hair, but at the same time, something which is comfortable because you want to sleep in it. So, um, found nothing. This was when eBay was still reigning here. I found some on eBay, really bad quality ones, and we didn't have Amazon back then yet. But yeah, so long story short, just thought, okay, there's a good gap in the market. And I also come from the silk manufacturing belt in India, and I spoke the
Ah,
language. So I
wow.
knew that I could get source quality silk and probably make good quality products. I mean, I didn't know. But yeah, but then yeah, it turned out to be true. A lot of amazing silk producers in there. And that's how I started.
I love that. I love the naivety, like, oh, well, I could do this better.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when you grow up looking at so many silk saris around you, I grew up in India, so I did know that we were famous for silk, especially South India, where I'm from. But it's just that I didn't know how it could be, how we can make an accessory out of it because all I saw is just silk saris. So didn't really know if I could really do it, but yeah, we got there in the end.
What was it like getting your first sample? Like what was the process like going, okay, I know where there is amazing silk. I have this idea, but like what's the gap in the middle? How did you get to like those first prototypes?
Okay, so it took me 6 months, and basically the first ones were really bad. Like we used like the manufacturer, because I knew the language, we kind of got really close. He was really nice to me. I don't know how it is if you directly go to China because that wasn't my path. But for
Mm.
me, it was more like, okay, we knew the language. We had some kind of common grounds. We studied in the same city. Like he's much older to me, but then yeah. So he used to send me these samples just free of cost, just because I think he had this. Okay, I think this girl's gonna do something. I don't know what, but then yeah, he would
Did he
send
have a
those to
crush
me.
on you?
Oh no, no, I think it was more about. Oh no, he was like more like, oh, you know what? This is something new, and I have never done this because they were generational silk sari makers,
Ah,
and
cool.
it was new for him, and he wanted to take the family business in a different direction. So he thought this was a good opportunity for him to kind of explore it. But anyway, so he would send me these samples. They were really bad. Either they would slip at night, or the quality was really bad, or the silk has two different sides. The rough side would touch my hair, but I still used them. And that was the time I was also traveling around Europe for like a month. And I took one of the silk hair wraps with me because I didn't want to carry my silk pillowcase. So I did, and it really definitely helped us during that trip.
Mm.
But yeah, so 6 months of literally back and forth, and finally we thought, why don't we use a bit of cotton on top? So that the nice part of the silk touches your hair and it kind of stays in place and it doesn't slip away. So that was probably the key turning point in the whole manufacturing process. And then yeah, so that's what we launched with. But look, when I say we launched it, I'm no way saying that was a great product when we launched. The product got better only with the feedback, like over the years. So we
Mm.
changed the measurements, we added drawstrings literally like 2 years ago. So there was a lot of iteration with feedback, but then the very first prototype still worked for almost at least 50% of the people.
Yeah. It's really interesting, isn't it? I think obviously through the production process you kind of figure out and iron out as many kinks as you can, but it's not
Yeah.
until you actually get it onto into consumers' hands that you go, "Oh, here are all the things I didn't think of."
Yeah, absolutely. And especially with something with headgear, anything to do with head, it's not like a pair of pants or a shirt where it's a little loose by the shoulders and you could still manage it. No, because you have so many nerve endings, even a little bit of uncomfortable feeling, and people were like, oh my God, I couldn't wear it. Like that's the first thing you think of. And
Wow.
um, yeah, you even you would think like if you're wearing a cap and going out on a sunny day, and if the cap is a little tight, you can't
Mm.
really focus till you get it right.
Yeah.
So that's the thing with headgears. So definitely a lot of back and forth with sizing and yeah, but yeah, we kind of got there.
It's so good. It's so good. So how have you being a product-based business, how
Mhm.
things been in terms of growth for you? So what have you found over the years of getting the word
Mhm.
out there and actually, yeah, finding the right
Yeah.
customers to give it a go and buy it and give you that feedback?
Yeah, so we as in when I launched it, it was just before COVID, literally like 3 months before COVID, and I was lucky enough to actually collaborate with Abby Chatfield. We
Oh,
just
cool.
yeah, she was just out of bachelor, and she was really really kind of pretty famous in Australia back then, like
Mm.
she still is, but yeah, so that was her first time she was stepping out in the limelight, and she has beautiful curly hair, and I sent the products to her, and that was the very first time it
Wow.
kind of, and I sent her like literally 2 days after we launched, and and that's where it kind of everything started, the word started spreading out, and then it was our customers. Once we got that first like 100 customers or 200 customers, and that's all because of Abby,
Wow.
and those 200 customers then ended up like talking about the products to other people, and yeah, it kind of started from there, definitely. And then COVID, people did everything they could possibly do when they were at home, to improve their skin, their hair. And our product is perfect if you're staying at home. And yeah, it just totally helped. I mean,
Wow.
it's sad to say that, but yeah, like a lot of brands did really well during COVID. And I think that
Mm.
now everyone knows it. Like COVID was a good
Yeah.
time.
Well, it is really interesting. I think it worked for some people and other people not so much. Like it's just the whole like economy shifted, consumer behavior shifted, so everyone's
Yeah.
priorities just shifted overnight. And you're spot
Yeah.
on. There's so many brands that just absolutely skyrocketed through COVID.
Yeah, definitely. And after COVID, I got pregnant. I had my first baby.
Yeah.
Um, and that's when the business definitely slowed a little bit because I wasn't in it as much as I wanted to, but also I didn't want to.
Yeah.
I had other priorities, and now I am like literally like this year is probably the first year I'm like fully back into it. Like
Mhm.
my daughter is now 2 years old, and I finally have some time where I can think and work in blocks of time instead of like 10 minutes here and half an hour here.
Mm.
So definitely business has slowed down, unlike all the businesses where they kind of skyrocket and they say like they have this year on year 100% growth. That's not been our case. 2023 we only had like 7% growth compared to 2022. So but yeah,
That's
it
that is still
yeah.
amazing though. Like I'm sure there are people listening going, I didn't grow. So, I think that
Yeah,
it is awesome. And it's really hard, I think, sometimes when we see all of these big stats and big numbers and, it's hard to know kind of the real behind all of those numbers. So I think what you're doing is amazing and any growth is awesome.
oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm kind of coming around. I was very hard on myself before, but now kind of coming around to the fact that you know what, it's business. These things happen, so you can't just like look at the headlines and feel bad about yourself. So no, I'm in a better mental state right now.
Good, I'm glad. But because it's really interesting as being the business owner, especially as women, when we go through these life changes, like having kids, it's
Yeah.
huge. Like they are both multi full-time jobs.
I know. Oh my God. Yeah, absolutely. Like there needs to be more talks about how, motherhood changes so many things, and especially as a business owner, how much more harder it gets.
Mm.
But yeah, that's for another podcast. That's an
Yeah,
entire episode.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's a whole nother hour in there. No,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's so interesting. What do you think has been the biggest challenge in your business over the last few years?
I definitely think because we don't have a consumable, so your repeat purchases are usually low. So our products are really high quality. They last a year and a half easily. So
Mm.
my customers who bought in 2021 are coming back now. So it's a huge,
Yeah, okay.
long lifetime.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's where you kind of lose out. So if you have a consumable, say if you're in skincare or makeup or anything to do with beauty, and that's the reason a lot of founders go ahead and start a beauty business because it's a consumable and people if they love it they will keep coming back for it. So that doesn't happen with us, and I think that has been a biggest challenge. And also the product cost itself, silk is a commodity, and we are really it doesn't grow here in Australia, so we are really dependent on the global economics and how the product does in China or India. And
Mm.
again that depends on the climate there, and there's so many things like the cocoon the smaller if the weather is bad, if it's too hot. Like there's a
Wow.
butterfly effect that goes on in there.
Oh my
but
gosh.
but yeah, so definitely commodity prices increase, and that's another thing where it kind of cuts you. And the biggest challenge is probably also the Facebook ads. The algorithm keeps changing, and you got
Mm.
to keep trying and iterate and reiterate. And yeah, so because Meta is still, I think, the biggest platform for e-commerce owners when it comes to getting new customers, new consumers. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's really interesting. I mean, I teach a lot of sales and marketing, and I'm always telling people, you've got to try free channels first, like
Yeah,
influencers or, PR or anything like that. But if you want repeatable sales that isn't like attached to your effort,
yeah,
unfortunately ads are a really good way to go, but they can just be so like unpredictable.
yeah,
One month you're like, yes, this is profitable, this is amazing, and then the
yeah.
next month it's not, and you're like, what happened? What changed?
Yeah, it's just and also a lot of now the current challenges, I think a lot of international brands like Temu and Shein, they keep buying ads.
Yeah.
So auctioning when they auction in so it's basically auction, and when you're auctioning and they have this millions of dollars of per day spend,
Mm.
you don't really have that kind of budgeting, and it's really hard for you to get that eyeballs or exposure. So and there's a lot of ad fatigue. Customers don't really want to see any more ads. A whole heaps of reasons when it comes to challenges.
Yeah, it's really interesting though, and I think that that's almost the like muscle you have to build as being a business owner is like there's always going to be problems.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely. You can't force anything. It's something that has to happen naturally. So, and these things are so out of your control. There's no point trying to stress about it. So I'm kind of in that zone now. Yeah, I'm not gonna stress about what Meta does. I'm just gonna do what I can do.
I love that. I love that so much. Do you do so I know I've been raving about how gorgeous your brand is. Do you do that in-house, all of your content? Is that you, or do you outsource it, or how have you built this gorgeous brand?
Uh, a little bit of both. So the first of all, the branding itself, the colors and everything is done by my best friend. She's from my high school best friend, and she also lives in Melbourne now. So she's amazing. She worked for Frankie, now she works for Canva. Big
Wow.
shout out to her. And and it was funny when I started, I had no money, so I paid her in like 4 installments, and she was okay with that. So she did the whole color scheme and brand, and almost kind of pushed me to have that name. I had that name for such a long time, Damn Gina, and she was like, "Okay, I think you definitely need to name your brand this." And the second part is the copywriting. We wanted something funny, and again, I got help from this amazing copywriter again in Melbourne. Her name is Nell Casey. She's from Feet Creative. I think I'm pronouncing it right. I'm not sure, but anyway, Nell did the copy for me, and that was amazing again. But I knew how the voice needs to be, so I was like, okay,
Mm.
this is exactly how I want it to be. It's just that English is not my first language, so can you just help me get it right? So she was really helpful. And in terms of content itself, over the past 4 years, we've had in house content creators, and also now I kind of work with the freelancer who's in India, but I
Mhm.
do most of the content myself because what I have realized over the years and algorithm changes is people love it when they see the founder and talk about it and the BTS and the raw emotions of building a brand rather than just shoving products on their face day in and day out and talking about buy this, buy this, buy this. I
Mm.
don't think anyone, they don't really engage with that as much as they would with you as a person. And the best thing I've heard about it is people buy from people, not from brands. So you got to be that person. So definitely at this point, even though I had in-house help before, now I just have a freelancer in India and I do most of my content.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think this is a bit of a COVID thing as well. Like people really
Yeah.
wanted it's like moved away from the polished, perfect product
Mm,
images and wanted things that were a little bit more relatable and wanted to know the story behind the brand. I think attaching your personal brand to a business is like the way to go now. You almost can't have a brand without the personal brand behind it. But it is hard,
abs-
like showing up on Instagram and
yeah,
TikTok and being that face. What do you
I
do
know.
to like regulate emotions around showing up on
Oh,
socials?
Oh, well, I am the last person that can give any advice to anyone because I was until literally until 3 weeks ago, I was this person who cringed at the thought of coming in front of the camera, like cringed so hard.
Mm.
I just couldn't bring myself to come and talk. I would just pick on everything from a little chin hair to how my hair looked, my double chin, my accent, all of it. Like
No.
I would just like pick myself apart. No, and I'm gonna tell you how wrong I was.
Mm.
Like sometimes you are your own worst enemy. Like you
Oh,
stand
yeah.
in your own way. Or and this was a lesson for me. I thought I hated content creation, but then once I started looking at the numbers and I'm like, okay, something has to change here. And I need to go in front of the camera more. We can't rely on Meta alone or ad platforms at all. We need to have that personal connection again with the brand, with the consumers or with whoever is like interacting with the brand. And I was like, I'm willing to step out of my comfort zone and see if this works. And I started creating content. Like I literally started creating content again after I did it like for a few months initially in 2019, 2020, and not the way I do it now. But and then I started doing this content again. And I mean, guess what? I love content creation. Like I didn't even, I kept lying. I was lying to myself
Oh,
that
I
I
love
hated it.
this.
Yeah, I was like, so I'm in that completely like a revelation era right now. I'm like, I didn't know what I liked all these
Yeah.
days. And now suddenly I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. I like content creation. I want to go there and talk to people. People are nice. I mean, there are some awful comments, but doesn't matter. Most of them are
Love them.
nice. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, so I would say anyone who, I mean, that's my only piece of advice. Whoever is starting a business, no matter what you start recording every damn thing, like your failures, your successes, every day, what you think is boring is not boring for someone else. It's better to have that B-roll going.
Mm.
So that's my piece of advice. And yeah, so it initially is a little hard, but I think it's all in your mind. But once you pass that cringe mountain, it's fine.
It's so
I
true.
say.
And it's interesting. I love what you said about, what you think is boring isn't boring to other people. Because it's
Yeah,
often that really small stuff that's actually what holds people back from starting their own thing. And it's like, because
yeah,
they kind of in their own heads, like, oh, what happens if this happens? What happens if that happens? And then you're showing up and going, oh, this big problem happened, but I solved it like this, or this happened today and I solved it like this.
yeah.
And they go, oh, it's actually doable. I don't have to put up all of those roadblocks for myself.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are so many little life lessons in these moments that
Mm.
someone else may probably be having a roadblock or a mental block, and you actually talk it out, and they're like, "Oh my God, I'm going through the same thing, and I could totally do this." So
Yes.
it's, I think, more of a, and that's how a community is built. Like you kind of show up and you say it what you're thinking, and your people will find you. So yeah, so that's what I've learned, and this is a very new lesson to me too. It took me literally 3 weeks.
No, but I love it too because it's also a great reminder that we're not too late. Like, and I love
Oh,
how you said, okay, something's got to change, so I'm going to change. And we do
yeah,
have that control in our businesses, right? We can at any moment go, you know what? I know I said I hated it, or I wasn't going to get on TikTok, or I wasn't going to do this, but damn it, I'm going to try something new.
yeah, absolutely. And I think we need to at least as a millennial, like I like half our like my childhood wasn't this digital, and you
Mm,
suddenly you're just like the world got so digital in the past decade. And when you're just jumping from there to here, it's very hard for you to just like start talking to the camera and be natural about it. Like, and I totally get it. Like I completely understand what you are thinking. That's what I was thinking too. But that's the world we are going into, and we have to adapt. That's the only way. Like you can't say I'm gonna still have a landline telephone. You're gonna use a
mm.
mobile, right? So that's exactly how it's gonna be. So Yeah, definitely go create the content. That's my advice.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. I read a stat on Instagram, so it must be true, but it was about Gen Z and how their biggest thing is community and
Yeah,
marketing that they're responding to, and brands that they're responding to are brands that create community. And it is the
yeah,
showing up and talking to the camera and sharing challenges and issues and things that actually creates that community because people know that you're in it with them.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think they've got it right when it comes to Gen Z that they know what works, and that's the community. So that's what the new generation business owners or entrepreneurs are so much more better. Like, don't cancel me, millennials, but yeah.
Yeah, totally. No, it's true.
Yeah, yeah, no, but they're so good in front of the camera, and they're so good at like telling the story,
Yes.
and there's something to learn there.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. It's so true. I recorded something yesterday and I did it like 1,000 times. And I was critiquing myself. I'm like, you keep showing up like this is a commercial, like, "Brrr," and I'm like, why can't I be natural and just talk to the people? It's just so weird. I can't get my head around it.
but
Oh,
but you
so
know what, you just do it once you start, like it's kind of getting your reps in, and you're gonna be
mm,
okay after a point. And also, people don't really notice as much as we do.
yes.
I have done some mistakes, but I've realized that no one really cares so much. Like, don't stress. It's okay. You get another chance tomorrow morning, like, and the day after, and the day after. So it's okay.
Oh my God. Do you know what? It has literally come up in like the last three conversations that I've had. They're like, nobody else cares. Like they're all worried about their own life. Like, don't even worry what they're thinking about you because they're not thinking about you.
Absolutely. And you'd be thinking about that one thing you said wrong or one pronunciation. But like, people honestly, yeah, they couldn't care less. Yeah, definitely.
That is so good. I love it. Okay, let's leave our beautiful Spark community with one last piece of advice. So,
Mhm.
reflecting on your time in business, what would be a piece of advice that you would give to another woman in business?
Okay, so definitely if you are starting now, like if you're a new business owner, as I said, document everything and start sharing it, like either on your personal page or your brand page. If you don't have a brand yet, on your personal page. If you already have a brand, on your brand page, choose one or two platforms. You don't have to overwhelm yourself, and start posting consistently. Like, even like, oh, today we couldn't get anything done, like even that's okay.
Mm.
So one is that kind of makes you, you kind of start learning how to create content. You start learning the ropes on how to create content, and it definitely helps in getting that first 100 customers. And if you are someone who's already in business, and you've been doing that, it's never too late to start doing that, like me. I've just started it. So, and I'm seeing the numbers change, and our return customer rate, even in terms of revenue, has gone up since I started doing this, because suddenly they can see our content again on their page, and they're like, oh my God, I forgot about this brand. I need to go check what they have new or whatever. So it definitely comes back in multiple folds. So do it. So that's my one piece of advice, is to actually get into content creation. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Sumana, you are absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for sharing your journey and wisdom with the Spark community. That was awesome.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed having this conversation. It was so easy. You made me feel super easy, and I just got right into it. So yeah, I appreciate you for that. Thank you so much.